Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Um, Wanted to share with you my first experience in a cinema or a theater in the Middle East. I didn't get to go in Damascus, and I feel like the intensive program there and me not getting out so much was not very good for my health, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And so I'm kind of glad that I'm getting out more, and it's really helping me better understand the culture as well. So I was supposed to study. I have an exam tomorrow. I was supposed to study, but one of my buddies and his Egyptian friend were like, this is typical here. No, don't worry about it. You can study later. So why don't you just go and see a movie with us? So I thought to myself, what the heck? Why not? So maybe not the smartest idea, but I went and it was very interesting. There weren't a lot of people there. Now we went. Today is what's today? Today's Wednesday, Al Arbi'at, and we went at 4 o'clock p.m. So you'd think that maybe it would be kind of full, but it was pretty much. I mean, there was like less than 10% of the seats that were full. It was pretty empty. The movie we saw was called Alf Mabrouk, which means Mabruk, I'll translate it as congratulations, but it literally means, I mean, you're saying, you're talking about the blessing of something, may you be blessed 1,000 times. But people say that as a congratulation. It's an exaggeration, 1,000 congratulations. And it was about, now if you haven't seen this movie and you want to see this movie, it's an Egyptian film, then you should just stop watching it right now. Stop watching this post. But if you don't want to see it, because I'm going to spoil the story and talk about it and relate it to my own life, then keep on watching. It's about this dude who, on his wedding day, a lot of messed up stuff happens, a lot of different incidents with different people in his family and just on the street in general, and he's very selfish. That's his disease, or yeah, that's his mushkila. Yeah, I'm thinking in Arabic, sorry, so it's kind of hard for me to speak English like I used to. So he ends up dying right before going to his celebration, his wedding celebration. And so the night before, he had told his fiance, who he was going to marry the next day, that he wishes he could live for 100 years. And it's kind of like butterfly effect and Groundhog Day in many different ways. So he dies, and then he lives the next day like it's the same day over, and he dies. He always dies at 12 a.m., the night of his wedding. So he just keeps dying and dying and dying and figuring things out and figuring out why his family is the way he is and analyzing his relationship to them. And in the last scene, he always dies crossing this one street. And I'm not surprised, because in Egypt it's pretty darn hard to cross the streets. I wouldn't be surprised if someone died, and I'm sure people die or get hurt every once in a while. But I mean, he goes there, and instead of him crossing the street, he gets there early. His family starts to cross the street, and he sees that all three of them there, and they're about to get run over by the same truck that keeps running him over. And so he jumps in his car, and and it kind of reminds me of Donnie Darko also as well. The end of Donnie Darko with the plane. And he just goes there, and he parks his car in front of the truck, and he looks at his family, and they're all screaming, because they're like, they don't want him to die, but he just has a smile on his face, and he dies. He sacrifices himself for his family. And so his disease, his weakness of being selfish, is overcome. And he realizes the true value of his family. And it really made me think of my own family, being here. I haven't kissed any of them or hugged any of them, or been able to, whisper to any of them. Those little things that you take for granted. Well, they're really meaningful. I wanted to just call my mom. It's very expensive, and my Yahoo Voice thing doesn't work. But I wanted to just call my mom and tell her I love her. After seeing that, it's like one of those movies. There's this other movie with the Indian dude from that White Castle movie or whatever. He's in this other movie where something happens with his dead wife. I can't even remember the details or what it's called. Some people hate the movie, but I really liked it because at the end, it just makes him realize the true value of his father. And so we have these figures in our lives, and we have to really think. We have to really value them, and we have to really appreciate the relationships with our families and with our friends, because you never know. I mean, uh, give excuses. One of the old sayings of the predecessors, the righteous predecessors, Salaf al-Salih, is that you should give so many excuses to your brother, and it just doesn't mean your blood brother, but everybody. So, even though in my family, certain members definitely keep in touch more than others, um, I really miss them all, and I really love them all, and it made me think about that, and it was a beautiful movie. Even though, you might think it was a tragic ending, but I thought the whole idea behind it was beautiful. I got to also practice my Egyptian by listening to it and by discussing the film. Picked up a lot of new vocab, and yeah, it was a really good film. Something that's very interesting I'll share is that they have istiraha, or an intermission, in the middle of the film for about 3 minutes or so. And I think, from what I understand, it's so people can get up and smoke. So it just shows you how how widespread smoking is in this country. Um, I'll leave it at that. And since I started opening up that topic of relationships, the next post tomorrow, inshallah, is going to be about relationships in Egypt and what I've seen. It's very interesting, and I'm gonna compare it and contrast it with my own relationships that I've had in America. And this is not like relationships like necessarily love between two people who are a sexual relationship, but no, I'm just talking about relationships in general. From intimate relationships like that to friend relationships to teacher student, just different relationships, and contrast that. All right, well, until next time, Assalamu alaikum.